That was just to say that it's being recorded, so that's great. Over to you, Amanda.
Yeah, I'm Amanda Lucas. I direct a charity that's just newly incorporated called Baby Grow. We run workshops for new parents, introducing them to developmental psychology, really the research on how their early interactions can actually help build their brain for later life resilience and well-being.
Fantastic.
And yeah, so I'm here because the live classes are going brilliantly. We've got lovely feedback from the participants, but it's, what's the best way to kind of demonstrate that lovely impact that we know we are having. And then also we want to make the workshops digital and have them accessible to as wide an audience as possible.
Brilliant.
So to get some insights about that as well.
Fabulous. That's great. Thank you, Amanda. That's lovely. Vicky Gilbert, over to you.
Hi, I'm Vicky Gilbert. I work for Cornwall Neighbourhoods for Change. So I teach basic IT to people who have maybe never used a computer before. I've helped people to set up accounts for Ocean Housing and given a little bit of emotional support as well. But yeah, technology is something that they need, and a lot of people are looking for jobs and they've got the skills, but they don't know how to apply for the job because of the barriers. So yeah.
Brilliant. Lovely. Thanks, Vicky. And whilst we're on the Vickies, I'm going to go to Vicky Bamfield Hammond. Is that right?
That is right. Hi there. I can't see anybody else, but I'm guessing you can see me. But yeah, I've just joined Artswell as a project coordinator for their health and wellbeing project. So we're just beginning a campaign and sort of looking into how we can sort of showcase what we're doing. And we're running sort of social media campaign, but it's all at the very early stages. So
brilliant.
Yeah, looking to pick up some tips.
Lovely. That's great. Thanks, Vicky. Kerry Raymond, and then on to Kevin.
Good morning. I'm Kerry. I work for Gwilym Tops Adventure Playground in Redruth, the only staffed open access adventure playground in the county, we believe. And I also work for the Cornwall Down Syndrome Support Group and for a community interest company called Ignite You, where we focus on naturopathic nutrition and inclusive and accessible dance.
Wow, lots of hats you've got today, Kerry. That's lovely. Thanks. Kevin, and then Charlotte Davies.
Hello, everyone. My name's Kevin Marsh. I work for Treverving Community Trust on the Community Larder project, which is about taking surplus food from supermarkets and other places and redistributing it to people to reduce waste and help those that might need it. My interest today is really total openness to explore. We're just starting a sort of marketing push to raise the profile of what we're doing amongst people. So yeah, any tips and things that I can glean from today will be great.
Fabulous. Thanks, Kevin. Charlotte, and then Natasha.
Hi, I'm Charlotte Davis. I'm similar lines with the food waste. I'm in very, very early stages of setting up a CIC for a restaurant in Newquay to have zero food waste, where we'd like to involve the community with workshops for how to utilise each part of ingredients which aren't often utilised, but also to involve Disc Newquay and have some sort of facility where we can have use the surplus food basically within the restaurant to feed the community.
Well, that's amazing. Those two projects sound like you should be working together as well, which is great. So that's lovely. Natasha, and then Bridget. Oh, you're on mute, Natasha. That's £1 to the local charity.
Sorry. I am here for our local charities in Mount Hawke, the Millennium Green and the Village Community Association.
Brilliant. Oh, that's fab. Lovely. Thanks, Natasha. Bridget, then Helen Tite. Can't hear you, Bridget, weirdly, but you're not on mute. So
the headphones.
that's better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I work for Carefree Cornwall, which is a charity that supports children in and leaving care.
Uh-huh.
We work closely with Cornwall Council to deliver a service, both running groups and an individual support service for care leavers. We're just in the process of re-looking at our digital strategy. We've just redesigned our website. So we're just looking for ideas, really, not only to showcase the work that we do, because I think we don't do that very well, and also to connect with our young people.
Fabulous. That's
more
great.
effectively.
Thanks, Bridget. That sounds very, very, very useful. Ruth Purdy, then Joanna, and then Eric. Ruth, if you're there, if you're able to, or you've frozen actually, so maybe I'll move over to Joanna and then Eric. Hi, Joanna. Maze.
Hi, morning everyone. Sorry, it's a few minutes late. Yeah, good to be here. Thanks for running this. I'm from Maze Creative, and we are a creative engagement company working with various people. Some of the people we're working with are on here, but I don't know the individuals. Work with CM4C, Gwilym Tops. Anyway, yes. On our previous course we were on, which James was running, we were shown some amazing images, particularly from Eden Project, showing what they do in numbers, but in something that looked really nice. So, because we're always trying to find new ways of as people have said, of sharing our impact. So, looking forward to it. Thank you.
That's great. Thanks, Jo. Eric.
Hi, good morning. Eric, and I'm from Connect Communities. We're a CIC based in Redruth, but cover the whole of Cornwall. I am responsible for sort of social media, the website, some marketing, raising our profile and people's awareness of us. I'm here today to pick up any tips to help me do that, help us to promote the services and help that we can provide. So that's
brilliant. That's great. Thank you, Eric. Helen Tite, I think you're struggling with sound, aren't you? Can everyone else hear me okay? Is that okay for everyone else? Yeah, great. Okay, so I'll come back to Helen. Carrie, if you're there, if you'd like to say hello.
Hiya, yeah, I'm here. It's nice to see everyone. I'm Carrie. I run Food Troop CIC. We're a food education organisation based in Redruth. So again, yeah, redistributes surplus food. And we are also a cooking class. Well, we're hoping to get a new venue in the next couple of weeks after a couple of years working from home, distributing the food and things like that. So we'll be getting a new venue, and then we'll be restarting our families cooking classes and our classes for children. So yeah, to get out of this, obviously as we move into the new venue, find a new way of communicating and just, yeah, communicating our impact would be amazing.
That's great. Lovely. Thank you. Elaine, if you're there, if you're able to say hello, Elaine Macy, and then Nurala. Let's go to Nurala. Hi, Nurala. Is that the right pronunciation?
Yes, yes, it was correct. Thank you. So yes, my name, I use my shorter name, Noor, and I'm the project manager, for Inspiring Women Network. We are a diverse women-led community interest company, and we aim to provide an inclusive and affirming space for women and help them achieve their full potential. Yeah, I'm here because impact assessment has been one of our major struggles over the years, and we've got to the point now where a major funder has asked us to measure our impact, and so now it's desperate.
Yeah, you have to do it. Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Noor. Ruth, if you're able to speak now, you were frozen last time, Ruth, and then Janie.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's lovely. Yeah.
Hi. Yeah, my name's Ruth, and I'm coming from Make It Better. We're a CIC, and we support communities to live well through the arts. Yeah, we're writing a lot of reports at the moment, and I'm hoping to get that all sort of ticked off by the end of the year. So it's a timely
Great.
bit of training.
It's fab. Thank you, Ruth. That's great. Elaine, I can see you now, full motion. And then over to Janie.
Hi, Kate. Sorry, I had some problems getting in, so I wasn't sure what you would like from us. But yeah, lovely to meet you all. Hello, everyone. Elaine from Full Motion CIC. We are on a mission to help thousands of people stay moving and connected. And particularly this year, we've had a focus on our free school meals holiday programs, working with young people across the county, delivering inclusive dance, fitness, yoga, and well-being. So here for my lovely friend Noor online recommended your course. So here I am and looking forward to finding out more.
Lovely. That's great. Thank you. And Joe Martin, I think last but not least. Hope you're there, Joe. No, don't think we can get Joe. Well, that's lovely. Thank you. I know that took a little bit of time, but it's really useful to hear about the amazing organisations that you support and that you work for, but also to hear and hopefully everyone got something out of that as well, to start to learn about what everyone else is here for too. So what I want to do today, I've got three kind of sections as James described. The first bit, we're going to talk about digital tools that we can use generally inside our organisations. So we'll have a little flick through those, and then we're going to go into a breakout room and just share our own experiences or talk about those ones that you've seen and think about which ones might be useful for you and ask questions. Then what we're going to do is spend a little bit of time thinking about some tools we can use to showcase impact. So how can we communicate this stuff out? What are some quick, easy, free ways that we can do those things? And then what we're going to do, I'm going to give you a little demonstration on some of the key ways that we can build infographics. So I'll show you some of the software that we can use. So I hope that will be useful. Alongside that, we're also lucky to have Elle from BF Foundation, James, is it, who's going to speak to us about her journey as well. So we'll fit that in during that time. So if I can just share my screen and we'll get started. Here we go. Can everyone see that okay? Yep, great. So let's get cracking and talk about some of the digital tools we've got available. I'm keen to find out from you, and you might want to put this into the chat. How many of you are on 365? How many of you are using 365 as a platform? Or also, how many of you might be using Google as your platform? Let me just kind of put the chats up there so that I can see those coming through. Anyone using 365, or does anyone know that they're using it or not?
365 being the Microsoft suite.
Being the Microsoft suite, yeah. So quite a few of you using 365, that's great. Some of you are using Google. Bridget isn't using them. So just so that you're aware, you can use the Google Suite for free, and not all of the software in there is there, but you can use quite a lot of it for free if you're just starting out, which is really useful. But the Office 365, the Microsoft 365 suite, you're able to get if you're a registered charity at a really great discount. So if you're not in this space yet, then actually thinking about using one of these two tools as your fundamental, what we call your platform for your organization, can be really, really useful. Why is it useful? Well, primarily it's because we can share documents really simply, really easy. We can work on documents together. And if you've been in that scenario where you've written a report, then you've sent it out to 5 people, then you've spent an evening trying to put those back together into one report, you'll know why you need to use the cloud instead, because they can all work on that together and they can all do it simply. So there's some real benefits to using these types of systems. They're not as expensive as they used to be, and moving over to them are much easier than they used to be as well. But what I want to do is showcase a few of the apps that we've got in these, just so that you get a sense of how you could use them. And you'll see that in the 365 suite there's about 34 apps that you get for free in that service. Most of us just use Word, Excel, PowerPoint, a bit of Calendar, and a bit of Outlook. So you've got loads of stuff that can open up to you if you just have a little dig around. How do you dig around? Go on to office.com, log in, and then you'll see all of the software that's available to you inside there. You can use it from there as if it's a browser, or some of them you can download and use on your own computer. But the first bit, I think, really makes an organization work when we get this right is how we store our files. And if we're in the world of 365, we store them using OneDrive and SharePoint. Those are our two pieces of software, our two places we can save things. If we're living in the world of Google, we use a product called Google Drive. And again, for free, if we're a startup organization, we can use Google Drive for free. Both of those, all three of those, allow us to put files into them and to share with whoever we like. Now that's great because we can share across organizations, or we can share only inside our organization. So we can keep it very private, or we can keep it broader than that as well. And that's up to you. That's how you define the settings with each document that you save and use. So even just getting that bit right can save you stacks and stacks of time. Now, we can do lots of other courses that can support you, helping you to think about which way you use that. But choosing one of those is really important. But the bit I want to focus on that I think is really exciting, and again is hidden in both the Google Suite and the 365 Suite, is these little intranet sites. And what I mean by an intranet site is these are sites that aren't published on the World Wide Web. They're only published to people you share it with. So Noor, for example, when you were talking about, your commissioners are asking for some impact stuff and they're starting to, bug you about it. These are exactly the sorts of places that you could start thinking, well, could I do that in an intranet site? So instead of us creating one document and sharing that with them and saying, there we go, what we can do instead is create a little mini website, allow them access to it and us, and we can build it either over time or we can just launch it in that way. And what that means is they can see it anytime they want. They can see things build on it. You could add, if you're doing, say, quarterly reports back to your commissioner, all you're doing is uploading those reports into your intranet site, and then the commissioner just clicks on the link and can see them. So the cool thing about that is that we're not then sharing, we're not giving people lots of private data. We're keeping hold of that ourselves because that still lives on our server, but we're giving them access to, they can see it. So we're stopping all of that nasty attachment stuff on email from a GDPR point of view, keeping it all in our own spaces. These are really simple to set up. Within Google, we've got something called Google Sites that does exactly the same. You can see, you just click create a new site, and then you click, I want to share this with these people, and then you start to add stuff to it. The same in SharePoint, we click new site, we click communication site as they're called in there, and again, we share it with those people. We can add on to these sites videos, Excel sheets, PowerPoint presentations, reports, any of that stuff we can add into these spaces. So that's the first sort of thing I wanted to share with you, is I think how important it is to get that foundational piece right to talk between, as I say, commissioners and ourselves. We can also use it if we're working on a project where we have multiple partners and partners from different places. And in that instance, what we'd be doing is saving all of our forms on there, all of our documents, all of our logos, our marketing materials, all of that stuff could be saved in there too. So they're just really cool things to have a play with. The second thing I want to share with you is the use of forms. And if you want to put into chat whether you've used either 365 forms or Google Forms before, Both of them are very similar. In fact, Microsoft probably just copied basically the Google Forms, so that they're both very similar. But what they allow us to do is quickly and easily collect information in for free. So it's very similar to SurveyMonkey, if you've used that before. But as I say, you don't need to have a license, and you don't have issues around you can only have up to 100 subscribers or followers or any of those sorts of things with it. You can set up a survey, you can have multiple choice, you can have free text boxes, you can have Likert, confidence ratings, you can have net promoter scores, you can have any of those things within there. And it takes about 10 minutes to set up. And the great thing is, once you share it, this is what the Microsoft Forms one looks like. You can see the types and the ratings down there. And this is the Google one. You can also get people to file upload. So if you're collating information from people, you can get them to upload photos and things as well, if you want to. But the way that we can share them is just with a link. We can send it out to people via email. We can put it onto a website and get people to do it in that way. But also we can do it through QR codes. Who's used QR codes in the past? Anyone using QR codes? Now, the great thing with Microsoft Forms now is in the Microsoft Forms, when we click on the share button over here, when we click on that button, we get instantly a QR code that's created. We can just copy that QR code, we can print it out, or we can just put it into an email, or we can put it onto the end of a PowerPoint presentation, or any of those sorts of things. And then anyone with a phone, they can just show the camera to the QR code and they will get that form showing to them. So if you're trying to collect information from the community, you can stick them on the bus stop or on bus poles or any of those sorts of things. If you just want to use them inside a workshop like this, you can just put them at the end of it and so on. But it's so quick and easy for anyone to be able to use a QR code. And because of the pandemic, most people have experienced using QR codes now. So let me just look at, so Eric's saying, lots of people I talk to say QR codes aren't used anymore. They're used now so much more than they've ever been. So they went through a big trough and everyone was like, no, we're not going to use QR. And now because of the pandemic, we're using them actually everywhere. And it's become much, much more popular. So Karen's saying she's used them in restaurants. Yep, we're using them in lots of places. And in China now, 1 in 5 transactions is carried out via a QR code. So it's becoming a really big thing now. And as I say, it will become more important over here. So thinking about using QR codes for forms is really valuable, but also you can create QR codes for anything. So let's say you've put a video up on YouTube. You can go onto QR code generator. You can create a QR code that links to that video, and you can put that on your report. So that someone's reading a paper report, they can scan the QR code and they can watch the video. So what a lovely way to interact with paper. We could do that on the back of our business cards. If you want to see some impact, scan this and go to a YouTube site or to your website or wherever, but a great way to connect that paper into the business world, into the virtual world. And you can see here, people are using them absolutely everywhere. And I think it's a great way, particularly if you've got an office, a reception, or a front of house anywhere where the public are coming in, or if you're running groups, putting a QR code somewhere that people can just scan while they're having coffee or they're just waiting, and they can see some of the impact stuff could be quite powerful. And the lady that was talking about Amanda, you're talking about the baby classes. Wouldn't it be great if that was a way that you could even get people who attend your classes to see how others have been successful?
Yeah, it's a really great idea. Thank you.
Good. So QR codes are really powerful.
The other great thing I just want to add there, Kate, is a QR code remains stagnant. So when you put impact out there and it's in print format or it's displayed, it generally goes out of date fairly quickly. Where if you put a QR code there and somebody scans it, actually the thing it's referring to is online, so it can always be updated. And so it's a really good way of using it.
That's a great point. Thanks for that. So the other type of form, so if you're not using 365 or if you're not using Google Forms, the other type of form that's really easy to use and again free is a little product called Typeform. And I don't know if anyone's played with this one, but Typeform looks and feels different to things like SurveyMonkey and Forms. Most of those feel quite formal and they feel quite corporate, but Typeform actually feels much softer, much more gentle. It's got lovely designs that you can use within there, and it's got also really nice transitions. So if you're trying to engage with people that you might not have worked with before, or people who might just want a softer approach to these things, Typeforms might be a really nice way of using those sorts of things. We can also include and we can integrate stuff into Typeform. So if we wanted to do event registrations, we can integrate stuff, we can integrate payments into it, we can use it for donations, all sorts of things. So, and even job applications as well, or volunteer applications. So if you're, again, trying to do things on the cheap and having a go at these things before you invest in something, a bigger piece of software, see if you can do it through Typeform first. Once you've created a Typeform, again, you can have a code, you can pop that onto your website and then it appears as a form inside your website, or you can just have a link and put that into email and just send that out to people as well. Hidden inside 365, and this is one where we don't have this inside the Google Suite, but we have it in 365, is a little product called Bookings. And what Bookings allows us to do is allowing the public or our customers or anyone to come onto what looks like to them as a web page, and they can book an appointment with you. Now, what this is really great for are those emails that we all send around to each other saying, I can do Tuesday, I can do Wednesday at 4, no, I can do Thursday at 2. And those conversations that go around and around and around, and we send about 20 emails. Instead of that, we can create a little link, a bookings link. We can send that link to people. They can then open their browser, they look at the website, they can see our availability. They don't see our calendar, but they can see our availability. They can click on a time and date that suits them. When they click book, it will then drop into your calendar as an appointment. Now that link is constantly updating. So as you're updating your calendar, it updates at the same time. So you're not ever out of sync with that, but it means that they can just do that quickly. If they then want to change that, they can go back in and change it. And so all of that kind of stuff can disappear. This can be really useful for things like focus groups, for things like mentoring sessions, one-to-one sessions, all of those sorts of things with clients. We can do it in that way. We can put things like certain members of staff in there that are available on certain days. So they don't have to have all of their calendar always open. It can just be on certain days for them. James is just asking a question there. Someone's asking about Doodle Poll. It's similar to Doodle Poll, but it's much more about a one-to-one basis. It's about really a client basis, just booking in an appointment with you. Whereas Doodle Poll doesn't actually book that appointment. What it does is just shows availability. So there's that piece. If you are in the Google world, or if you don't have 365, then there's a very similar product called Calendly. And Calendly actually has a little bit more functionality than 365 bookings. And this one allows us to, again, send out the link. People can see it. They can book in quickly and easily. So there's something very similar if we don't have the 365 suite. One of the things I was going to say, I forgot to say about bookings, is we can also take bookings for workshops within 365. So we can set it up very similar to Eventbrite. You can say how many seats are at the bookings, and we can again send out reminders throughout the bookings time, reminding people to attend, send out the link, all of those kinds of things. It's very similar to Eventbrite. And of course, don't forget Eventbrite. So, Eventbrite's really useful. It's a great one to not just put your events up, but for allowing people to, in effect, to market your events as well. And if you run events regularly on it, I often get people that come along just to say, oh, I was just browsing Eventbrite and found your event. So using it as an event, as a marketing platform as well is really useful. Joe's just said there, it's great for free events. I completely agree. But actually, if you're paying for events, or if you want to take people to take people's money, it does cost, and it does take a percentage of the fee. So you just have to be aware of that. So that's a little bit about forms, about bookings, about events, those sorts of things. And I just wanted to highlight those to you. The other little bit I wanted to share with you before we stop and go into a breakout room is actually, if we're having an interview with someone online, with picking up information about a case study, for example, and we're doing that in the online world. One of the things that's really cool now inside Teams is the ability to click transcription, or to transcribe your video. And so therefore what happens is, as both of you are speaking, it literally just captions out everything that's being said, splits it out by you and that person, and in effect just creates a text report of your conversation. Really, really, really useful. So instead of you having to type really fast and say, hang on a second, let me catch up with notes, all of those sorts of things, just click transcribe, and then all of that's transcribed. It's also stored in time order. So if you click record as well, then you can go back to the video, click on a certain point, and it will jump to that transcription too, or vice versa. Click on the transcription and the video will jump to that particular point. So transcribing can be a really useful tool. As I say, inside 365 now, we've got it in Teams. If you wanted to use something outside of 365, if you were using Zoom, there's a product called Otter AI, which I'll just type into here, otter.ai, which you can use as a very similar product within there too.
5 minutes, Kate.
Thank you. That's good timing. You can then download that transcript as a Word file. So then you've got all your content that you can just work on, which is really useful. Or if you forgot to transcribe, or if you've got any video, and in effect any old video that you want to have transcribed, inside the little app called Stream in 365, you can upload that video, and you can tick auto generate captions, and then it will create a transcript for you, which I think is amazing. So it's really worth, if you're the person that's doing interviews, it's a really useful one to be able to do. Oh, there's a lovely video of me showing you how to do that. So yeah, there we go. The other little thing that we can do inside Stream, which is really useful, and this is just a little tip again, is we can screen capture. So if we want to show someone, for example, if you've got beneficiaries and you want them to fill out the form correctly, you can do screen capture in Stream. So open Stream, click on Create, click Record Screen, and then what you can do is do the action on your screen. It will record all of that. It will record your voice saying what to do at the same time. And then you can just pop that over to a client and say, here's how you do it. I've just shown you on screen capture. Really useful for those kinds of environments, but also useful for other parts of the organization. It might be that you've got someone new joining the organization, so you want to share how to do something, or how to fill out the expenses form, any of those kinds of things. So that's a nice one. You can also use it just to record yourself. So if you want to do an introductory video to your staff or to clients, you can do that via stream, just talking to yourself. I know I've only got a few minutes left, but I just want to share this little tip with you. This amazing product called Microsoft Lens. It's an app we can download on our phones. It's free for any of us to download. It's great also, actually, if you've got kids that are or young friends or students that are learning. Microsoft Lens allows us to capture anything in the real world, anything paper-based, we scan and we can take into the digital world. So anything that's typewritten, anything that's handwritten, any pictures, any whiteboards, any of those things, we can scan and drop them into 365, or we can just email them to ourselves. And the cool thing is, if it's text written, you can just right click and say convert to text, and it will type it out as if you've just typed it. So if we've got something we've printed out and we think, oh my God, we've got to type all of that up, we don't have to. We can just use Lens and just bring that into the world, into the digital world. We can do exactly the same with a spreadsheet. If we've got a printed spreadsheet, we can click on Lens and it will drop it into a spreadsheet, cell for cell. So any of those times that we've just not found that digital document, we can do that really easily. There's a lovely little product in there as well called Immersive Reader, that and this is what I use quite a lot, if I've got a long report to read, I scan it using Lens, and then I go for a dog walk, I click Immersive Reader, and it just reads the report out to me. So really helpful if you've got to digest a lot of information. The last little tip before we break into breakout rooms is the use of OneNote. Now, OneNote we can use for free, regardless of whether we've got a 365 account or not. OneNote is a place where we can store all our meeting notes, which is really helpful. We can just type in our meeting notes. That's not necessarily what I wanted to talk to you today about. The cool thing that I think is really important is this little button over here that says Dictate. We can click Dictate, we can click in OneNote, and we can just speak our reports out instead. It's about 4 times faster to dictate than it is to type. And if you're a 2-fingered typer, it's 6 times faster. So there's a real benefit in getting used to dictating in this way. So if we've got a transcription, we can, if we wanted to read that out or convert that in that way as well. So using dictation for us to write our social impact reports, for us to write our narrative, is much quicker than typing it. So those are my little quick tips on some of the things that we can use inside 365 and inside Google, or inside actually any of those sort of products that we can use. Is that useful? Helpful? Yeah, good. Lovely. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to hand over to James. And James, are you going to put us into breakout rooms? Over to you, James.
Yeah, brilliant, Kate. Thank you for those. So hopefully everyone's managing to take some notes while we're in this. But we will share all of these links as well in a resource document following the workshop. So don't feel like if you've missed something that you need to go back, we will send an email. So we're going to go into breakout rooms. It's an opportunity for you to ask questions on some of this stuff, to raise other ones for other organizations to know about. And so we've got 15 minutes in there, and then we're following that with a coffee break. And so I'm just about to assign those. So hopefully you should all jump in. We've got 2 breakout rooms. Hopefully Karen and Kate will be in there, and then I'll be floating in between. So give me 2 seconds. And we should. Just you left there, Chantal, 2 seconds. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Just waiting
Thanks.
for
It's just my group that's come back.
just waiting for the other group to come back. 2 secs. If there's anything I can do to make them come back.
Suck them in.
So James, what do you use? What do you use for? I suppose you're on Teams, are you?
Yeah, because of the university buy into the Microsoft kind of package, I guess we generally jump into that. But having said that, we're in Zoom now, and so we use Zoom and others. So
just for sharing files, because we were talking about Google being a bit annoying.
Yeah, we use Microsoft, so SharePoint, OneNote, and all those. So
which has its own sort of issues, doesn't it, James? Especially with partners that are trying to access things. I think it's with all of these things, it's about perseverance and sort of buying into it and poking it with a stick sort of every day until it works. But we were sort of having conversations about different partners, James, using different platforms like us, which can cause sort of issues. And
they can, like Kate was referencing, is you could allow access for people, but then edit access. And then when it's a bought license, like the university buy this 365, then they ring fence a lot of the capabilities for only those staff within there, so it can cause problems there. But there should be, and always should be, route arounds. But that's why sometimes, like your tack, Joe, is actually quite a good one of just going to all of the open source software that's out there. Welcome back, everyone.
Hi.
Okay, so without further ado, we're just going to have a break. If I can ask you back for 10 to, it gives us a good 15 minutes plus of just having a break. I'd encourage you to go away from your screen, have a stretch out, go make a cup of tea, coffee, some water, but make sure you do have a break, and I'll see you back for 10 to. I'll put some lovely music back on again, so you can all enjoy your break, everyone. See you at 10 to. By the way, you don't have to leave either. You could just put your mute and no camera.
Down from the door where it began, and I must follow behind it. The road goes ever on and on, down from the door where it
watching The Hobbit again.
and how far ahead the road has gone, and I must follow behind
For those in the room, for inspiration for my next workshop, what music would you like to hear? I've put The Hobbit on, but has anyone got any other ideas around relaxing music?
I was going to mention ABBA, you know, a bit of Dancing Queen, but that's not relaxing, so I'll stand down.
Let's certainly get everyone going though, Karen. I think maybe ABBA for after lunch. Maybe a workshop after lunch might be an ABBA one. Look at that. I think I'm a DJ. Did you see that fade out there? Did everyone get that? That was great. Welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone enjoyed a nice coffee break or a break away from the screen. Hopefully everyone managed to get away. We're moving into our second session now. So back over to Kate. Hopefully everyone enjoyed the first session on some digital tips. Keep questions and queries that you have. By all means, you can ping them across in the chat as and when, but by all means, you can send them at the end as well. And we might have a bit of time at the end of the whole session to answer any questions that you might have. But back over to you, Kate. Thank you, everyone.
Lovely. Thanks. Thanks, James. Yes, great. So what we're going to do now is just kind of spend a little bit of time thinking about ways in which we can use digital to excuse me, to showcase our impact. So again, I'm going to give you some tips, some tools, some ideas, and then I'm going to hand over to Elle to talk a little bit about her social impact work that she's been doing. And then again, we're going to go back into a breakout room, so you've got a chance to discuss what you've learned and what you've seen so far. So again, if I can share my screen. Whilst I'm just sharing my screen, just to check in with everyone, anyone got any other questions or any reflections that they've had over the coffee break? Any quick things to ask or check in on?
Just further to our conversation, Kate, I've just emailed the Department of Work and Pensions. Because we are in correspondence at the moment. So
great.
I'd be interested to see what happens there. But I've argued the point that they tried to, as I say, they tried to put Dragon Naturally Speaking on my iMac last year, only to realise that it doesn't actually work with OS. So, well, you know, we'll see.
Yeah, absolutely. So Dragon's a great product for dictation. The only downside to it is it takes up a lot of bandwidth and a lot of space on your computers generally. And as you say, it really struggles to work with Macs. So yeah, so it's a bit of a clunky old thing now. So yeah, really great point. Thanks. Good. So what I want to
Kate, we were talking about issues with using Google Drive and lack of compatibility, things for people being able to download stuff, and also me finding it very frustrating to try and get things on and off it in comparison to something like Dropbox. I just wondered whether you had any tips or experience with that.
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually, Joe. There's it's become much more compatible than it used to be. So now in Google Docs or in any of the Google Suite, you can just say download as, and you can download as a Word document, as a PDF, as any of those sorts of things. So you can do that more. And also you can now work as a Word doc inside Google. So you don't have to allow it to become a Google Doc. So there are sort of two ways there that we can manage files better if we are working with people across that piece. But often what I would do is actually keep it as a Google Doc and share the link, because most people can work you know, in a browser on a Google Doc in that way. But I appreciate sometimes we just have to download something as a Word document or that kind of thing. So have a little play around with some of the download tools within there now.
Thank you. But I think from my point of view, because we're talking about sharing things with other people, and for example, on the wrong browser on the Mac, you can't play a video. For example, you then have to download it, those kind of issues. Yeah, again, I would recommend that you would download Chrome as a browser if you were using it all the time for in a Mac environment. Certainly, the Chrome for Mac is better for that. But of course, there's an issue for your partners if they haven't got it, or you know that.
Absolutely. It's the same with any of these products, to be honest with you, Joe.
Your intranet idea is probably more compatible, is that right?
Yes, absolutely. It's much easier to use, much easier to access for everyone. So yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Joe. Good. So where I want to start with impact is just thinking about what we're actually trying to do is to create memorable communications here, that we're thinking about what we all do as social enterprises, CICs, charities. We love doing the work that we do. And generally what we're rubbish about is communicating the success of it, aren't we? That's kind of what, you know, I think one of the things that's a very kind of similar theme throughout most organizations like us. So what I want you to think about is how can we create, or how can we showcase impact in a way that's memorable? And I just want to go back to first principles here initially. I want us to think about what actually makes things memorable, what makes communication memorable. And this is a fab model that I came across in a book called Talk Like TED. So how to do TED Talks, how to make things memorable in that kind of way. And this goes right back to Roman days. So what it talks about is actually to create memorable impact on anything, we need to have pathos, logos, and ethos. And again, I'll share these slides with you so that you can spend a little bit of time thinking about these. But what it really is about is that we have to have a memorable impact that gives us an emotion, and that's pathos. So if you notice with most TED Talks, for example, when they start, they'll start with a story. And that's something that's really important in social impact, is how do we grab people's attention by sharing an emotion? So that's the first bit, the pathos. The second bit is logos, which is how do we back that up with numbers and reason? So we need to hit them with a story, tell them something that's useful, give them that feeling of emotion, and then give them some figures. And to me, these are the two sides of the coin with social impact, emotion and figures. And the last bit at the top is ethos, which is about our credibility as an organization. And often that comes by rote, that comes, particularly with a commissioner, they might already know us. But one of the things we often fail to do when we talk back to our commissioners particularly is describe the credibility that we have with the community that we work in. So adding that into those case studies is a really powerful piece. So when we're thinking about communicating this stuff, I want us to check these off on our list. Have we got a bit of the pathos? Have we got the pity piece? Have we got a bit of logos? Have we got the logic piece? Have we got a bit of the ethos? Have we got that ethics and credentials that's in there? And those things combined creates impactful social impact, or impactful any version of communication. Does that make sense? Good. Just wanted to share some examples here that some examples of where I think people are doing this well in the social world or in the digital world. This is a water type environment, but what they've got here is they've really got established here. They've got some numbers, so they've got their logos there. They've got some ethos here. We can see that they've got that kind of piece. And then if we go into their case studies, we can see they've got absolutely that pathos piece. They've got that piece that's talking about the people. So, real statements around we're an environmental brand first. We're not selling water, we're about the environment, for example, are really great statements that are giving that credibility and that ethics piece within there. Another one I want to talk about that's much more recent that I don't know if you have seen or followed. It's worth following these guys on Instagram or on TikTok. Amazing on TikTok. They've done some tremendous work. It's a tiny little organization, a little social enterprise called Murph's Life, working in South America. And what they do in real time every day is talk to people, find out what they need, and crowdfund that day for that person. So what they've managed to do is create impact in a world that's changing all the time like this, in a world where, particularly with young people, they're expecting things to happen straight away, there and then, those kinds of things. Worth following and looking, because I think they really change the model of giving, particularly in this space. But what I love is how they tell the stories, and they're telling them predominantly on TikTok. So a challenge for you there to think about, actually, is that an approach that we should do? Is that an approach we should look at? Or which bits of this would be useful for us? And there he is on TikTok. And another one which I really like from a storytelling perspective, and we could learn a lot from, is Humans of New York. Does anyone follow Humans of New York? Amazing organization. What they're doing is they're interviewing and telling stories of people just on the streets in New York. So it could be anyone that's sitting on a park bench that day, anyone, it could be anyone from someone homeless to, you know, a chief exec of an organization, anything in between, and everyone, and telling stories. And the way they craft the story is really powerful. So have a look again. I use these as what I call my little mentors when I'm thinking about social impact. Looking back at these when I'm writing case studies and thinking, how did they craft that? How did they tell that story? How did they get across that pathos? Because these guys are pathos fully incorporated. So those are just a few examples. I'm sure you've got lots of examples as well, and James has got lots to share, and we can talk about those in the breakout rooms. But the one thing I also wanted to bring home is this importance of good photography when we're looking at our own social impact. This is the place not to scrimp on. This is the place to make, if we can, make really impactful imagery. This is just an example here, organisation in Birmingham, Street League, and some of their stories. But when you come onto this page, just the colour combinations of that girl's hat and the blue really makes you want to look at that. So thinking how we can address those and make things much more impactful for people is really powerful. I'll come back to Street League in a little bit. So I hope what that's helping you to see is that we really need this combination of stories and numbers. And this is just an example, and I'll share this with you afterwards. This is our social impact piece that we did last year, all about stories, telling the stories of the people that we were looking, that we've been supporting over that time, telling the stories of lockdown, but adding in their numbers and adding in there those images to go with it. So that impactful image, content, numbers makes that difference. So let's go back onto what tools we can use. There's an incredible product inside 365 called Sway. And after the next bit, I'll show you and do a quick demonstration of Sway. But what Sway allows us to do is to create a communication, create a publication really quickly and easily that we can share via a link again. So if for those of you that remember the old world of Publisher, does anyone remember Publisher? That awful product that we used to spend hours doing and then we'd share it with someone and no one could open it. That was the problem with Publisher. But this is now the new version of it. And actually, it's got lovely transitions. It's got animations. We can add content into it. We can create it as a live document. So it's a great place to have a look and to see if we can move some stuff into Sway. And one of the great things about Sway is if we've written it already in Word, we can press a button in Word and we can push it into Sway and start the process really easily. Video. Video is such a pain, isn't it? When we think about creating video, we think, oh, it's going to take forever to edit it. It's going to be a real pain to do. But fundamentally, video is different because it feels real. There's an authenticity about video that we can't often get in text or in images. So I would really challenge us to think about how we can use video in our social impact, but also in our social marketing going forward as well. As I say, one of the things that people struggle with is editing video. My first advice about editing video is don't edit video. If you can get away with it, try to do it as one take. If you're doing an interview with someone, using screen capture or using Teams, click record, keep it as one take wherever you can. If you're just using a smartphone as your camera to record stuff, that's fine. But the downside of it is the need for better microphone. So it works well for the video side, for the camera side, doesn't work so well for the mic. So one of the things we can buy is a little mic adapter that can sit at the bottom of our phones, that either if you're outdoors has a little outdoor socket on it, you know, one of the fluffy things, or if you're indoors it doesn't, and that will pick up the sound much better and obviously tie straight back into your video. So those sorts of things are worth thinking about if we are just going to do this low key for ourselves. If we do need to edit, there's quite a lot of free editing tools that are out there. If you're in the world of Apple, you're lucky with something like iMovie that's very easy to use. But Windows, really does, I think, still let us down on this piece. One of my favorite ones, and the one we do quite a lot of training on now, is this GoPro one. This one down here. It's free to use. If I can just go forward here, it's called Quick. If you just Google GoPro video editor, you can then download it onto your phone, and it allows you to trim, to add music, to transition, to do all of those things quite quickly and easily. It won't be the world's most perfect video. Don't get me wrong. This is nothing like hiring a corporate person to do this properly, but it has some really simple ways of doing this. If we want to add music, there are quite a lot of places that we can find royalty-free music that we can look at. So there's one called Muse Open over here. There's some stuff on SoundCloud, or DatPiff has got some sort of trendier stuff, some hip hop and rap stuff within there as well. So have a look at some of those and see if we can use therefore some royalty-free. And also within Bandcamp sometimes as well, there are some royalty-free pieces. So have a look at some of those that might be useful. There's a lovely little product as well called Adobe Spark. This is part of the Adobe suite, but it's free for us to use. And in Spark, what we're able to do, sorry if I go back, what we're able to do is there's some video templates that we can use that it almost has, not almost, it does have all the transitions, all the writing, all the music set up for us. So if we can find something that's close enough to what we want, we can use that and then upload a combination of videos and photos into there and create something quite quickly. It's a little bit similar to iMovie in that way from an Apple perspective, but this allows us to use it on any device. And I'll come to Canva in a second when we talk about infographics. But if you've used Canva before, something I didn't know until very recently is now you can also use it as a video editor. And again, inside here, there's loads of templates that we can use. So we can open Canva, choose one of the templates, throw in our video, edit it, add in images, add in messages, add in content, and then we can do that and download it as an MP4. So again, we can do that for free. So that's a bit about video. The other bit that I wanted to share is thinking about creating infographics. And infographics, I've got one over there for you, is just basically a graphical way of showing densely packed information or information you want to get across in different ways. I love infographics. I've already said I'm dyslexic. So for me, infographics is much easier to process information. But also if our clients are low literacy or have English as a second language, this is a much easier way for people to learn as well. It's what we now talk about as being inclusive design. So when we're thinking about developing our case studies, let's think about ways in which we can create more inclusive ways to reference these. Lots of different ways to have infographics within there. But the one I wanted to show, and I'll share with you, I'll do a little demo of Canva after the next bit, is Canva does built into it infographic templates, hundreds and hundreds of them. So we can click on a template, we can drag and drop our information in, and we can then download that as a JPEG or as a PDF, and then we can share it. Really simple, easy way to use it. So that's the storytelling side. The other bit is the numbers. And one of the things I'm keen for you to understand and think about is that what we tend to do with our numbers is we just put them in as data. We say 200 people did this and 400 people did that. And the challenge with that is, so what? So I want to give you this model to challenge yourself to think, if we turn data into information, what we're doing is connecting parts. So we're saying 200 people now can do this, which means they're able to do this. If we turn that into knowledge, we're adding more value to it. If we're turning that into wisdom, we're changing the game. So when we're creating our social impact, let's think about how we can turn this into wisdom, particularly for our commissioners. What does it mean to the bigger picture? What does it mean to our local area as a whole? What is the impact on society? What does it mean for the future? That's the stuff that turns data into wisdom. And this is what we call the DIKW triangle. You can Google it and read more about it, but just challenge yourself when you're thinking about this stuff. How can you push it up that ladder and make it into wisdom? There's a lovely little product that we can use that many of you will already know, and James brought this one to the forefront, is one called the Outcomes Matrix that we can use from Good Finance. It's great. We can look at outcomes in there. We can select the areas we want to work in. We can then choose some of the indicators we want to use, and then we can add in and work against those. So what this starts to do is give us a bit of structure, gives us those places in which we can add our numbers in, we can create our outcomes and indicators in a really clear, in a clear way, and then we can use those throughout our journey. So that one there is called the Outcomes Matrix from Good Finance. James will drop that one into the chat, no doubt. But then the other one I want to share with you is Power BI. Again, a little product inside 365 that we can use. And what Power BI does is turn spreadsheets into pretty pictures. So we can drop a spreadsheet into it. We can then drop over the top of it the styling we want to use, whether it's a bar chart, or whether it's a pie chart, or whether it's a whatever. Any of those we can use, and then we can create little dashboards. Those dashboards we can integrate into SharePoint websites. We can integrate them into our own website, like this one here. This is going back to Street League. They've got live on their website their Power BI dashboard. So every time they do an intervention or something happens, what they then do is that's automatically pushed out to the website. So it's real-time social impact, which I think is a really exciting way of doing this stuff. So we can put it on our website, we can put it on our commissioners' dashboards, we can put them into Sway, again, as live documents, and we can update them in that way. There are some other visualization tools we can use. So Power BI is one of them. We can also use ClickSense up there. We can use Tableau. But the one, again, which none of us know, but is free, is one called Google's Data Studio. Free for us to use. We can chuck up a spreadsheet or a Google sheet, and we can start to build it up. But what's clever with Data Studio is we can combine a data sheet or a Google sheet or an Excel sheet with our analytics or with something else. So if we want to start to combine data and bring it into that space, then we might want to have a look at Data Studio as well. So those are all the bits I just wanted to share with you. So we went right from the start, the idea of pathos, logos, ethos, that idea of bringing all of that together. We talked about storytelling. We've talked about using Sway, Canva, using video editors to create that feeling of persuasion. And then we've looked at some number pieces in terms of Power BI, in terms of Google Data Studio, and using other ones like Tableau, ClickSense, that we could bring that data alive. I'm hoping I'm on time, Karen, if that works. Yep, great. So
thanks, Kate.
James, if I hand back over to you to introduce Elle.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you, Kate. That was really, I think everyone would agree that was really insightful. Thank you. And so the next session, we're going to pass over to a case study. And I've been a big supporter of BF Adventure and the work that they do. And I follow them on LinkedIn and others. And I came across, they always produce a social impact report. And sometimes showcasing this impact can seem a bit distant, and actually how do I go about that? And so I wanted to invite Elle Warren from BF Adventure to come in just to explain actually how does it work out in practice. It doesn't take an expert graphic designer to pull these things together, and so hopefully Elle can give a bit of a story of how they do it at BF Adventure. How do they produce their social impact report, which is fantastic. They've got it and we can share it at the end. And so over to you, Elle, just to give us your story.
Hi, everybody. James, can I share my screen? Can you?
Yeah, you should be able to, Elle. Yeah.
I just be able to. Just it's a long time since I've done it on Zoom.
Big green button at the bottom. If you give that a go.
There. Can everybody see? Oh.
If you go to the top, display settings. At the top, you've got display settings. Just on the screen that we can see there.
Oh, yes, I have. It's hidden.
That's it.
Something else.
If you click on that one.
Yeah. Cool. Brilliant. Sorry. Gosh, not an expert on these digital things. Ought to be after all this time, oughtn't we? Hi, everybody. My name's Elle Warren. I am the Charity Business Manager at BF Adventure. I've got a background in youth work, but I've been at BF now for over 6 years, which seems absolutely bonkers. Never has time gone so fast. I guess from the minute I kind of got here and I got my head around what BF does and how we do it, I've always been really, really interested in demonstrating the impact of youth work and of the things that we do. Somebody once described it as a bit of the dark art of youth work. And that's always a little bit of a challenge for me, because it's like, well, I get it, how come you don't get it? So actually, on a mission to kind of look at how we could demonstrate our impact at BF, we went on a little bit of a journey. And I want to talk to you briefly about that. I know that's not why I'm here, but just briefly to set it into context. So today I'm just going to talk a little bit about an overview so you know what BF is about, why we needed an impact report, how we do it, what we include, and how we share it. So it's quite simplistic. I'm a little bit, I have to say, when Kate was talking about all the theory, the pathos and the ethos and all of that behind, I was thinking, God, I've not really necessarily pitched it at that level of theory, but then I'm like, oh, we've done it anyway, so that's good. So win-win. Love a bit of theory. Okay, so BF Adventure. Yes, what we are a outdoor activity centre. The bit that I manage predominantly is around kind of alternative education for children and young people who are struggling for some reason in mainstream education. So many of our young people have got social workers. We work with quite a lot of children in care. We work with children with additional needs, children with, low level to sort of mid-level mental health concerns. And we support them on our site. We've got 60 acres of activities and green spaces and quarries, and it's lovely. I hardly ever get out there because I'm in the office, but it's absolutely fantastic. And we kind of do a mix. I think my strap line at the minute that I'm working on is about trauma-informed youth work in the outdoors. So we've got a number of professionals who have developed their trauma-informed practitioner status. So we add that into kind of our inherent youth work values and do it all in the outdoors. So that's what we're doing. When I first started to look at the impact report, as I said before, I felt like we needed to kind of have a little look about what our values were as an organisation, our missions, and our mission, which was already in existence, but just unpick that a little bit, and then kind of try to work on a theory of change. In line, yeah, so I'll start with the values. So these are our values. I'm not going to go through them. It's just to give you a general idea. And just to point out as well that all of our graphics are done on Canva, which is fabulous, really, really good. So we looked as a whole team at developing or pulling out what our key kind of values are, and that underpins the work that we do.
Sorry to interrupt, Elle. Just on, if you can click display settings at the top,
yeah,
we just need to change the display that we're viewing. So just to go along with what you're viewing. Oh, perfect. There we go.
Can you not see?
Yeah, no, that's perfect. We've got it now. Sorry.
Did you not have it before?
We didn't. It was on a different view, but we're all there now. So all good. Sorry to interrupt.
Anyway, never mind. Yes, so can you see BF Venture mission? Yes?
We can, yeah, that's great.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So this is our mission statement, which is fairly standard, I guess. Sorry, I'm off my throne. But also you can see on the other side of the screen how we try to talk about our mission within our actual impact report. So there's an example of how we would work that into the report, I guess, and give some examples and some stories around it. Okay. And this is our journey of change. So we looked at doing the theory of change, but actually we decided that pictorially is a far more useful way of working with young people, particularly those that have got kind of like maybe some needs in terms of their language use and that sort of thing. So although it talks about, it demonstrates what it is that we do, we also use it as an opportunity to talk through with young people what they can expect when they're here and what they might want to choose to get out of their time with us. So that's a basic little level of what we're doing. So in order to kind of look at measuring our impact, we set the scene through that. Then what I wanted to do, and I know Kate touched on a little bit of this, is just kind of address that issue of why we actually measure impact. And I've been along to quite a lot of the Centre for Youth Impact sessions, and I'm a bit of an impact geek, and this came up the other day at one that I was in, and I really, really loved this. So in terms of kind of what's the purpose of measuring impact? So it gives us a decision tool. It helps strategic managers make decisions about service delivery, staffing and any changes. It's a persuasion tool, so it demonstrates our track record of change. It's an accountability tool, which I think is really important in terms of the fact that we can look at our strong partnership relationships and our values and our principles, and we include that within our impact report, as I've just shown. And it's a communication tool, so it's really important, and that links into some of the stuff that Kate was saying. It's about facilitates understanding to different audiences about what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I think when that all sets together, it's really interesting to look at how we then do that. So if I just backtrack a minute, so what we did was we looked at what it is that we do. We looked at why we do the things that we do at BF Venture, and then how then, now I guess is the bit that you're interested in, is how we capture that and how we let people know what it is that we do. So it's quite a long process. We actually start the process for the next year as soon as we finish the current year. So we kind of review the impact report that we've written. We look at what went well within it. We look at where we might develop it. We're really keen to not just keep producing the same stuff within it every year, and to make it useful. So we get feedback from people and we start the planning. So next year's is already in planning. What's really important within it, and this once again links in with Kate, what Kate was saying, is there's an element of measurement within it. I'm really big on stories. I think stories are really, really important, but we also need to demonstrate that we're collecting some statistics around things and that we're measuring some kind of distance travel. And we've tried that in a couple of different ways at BF, and it's not always easy because of some of the young people that we're working with to kind of put numerical values on the distance travel can be challenging. However, I'm sorry, we've got young people in the background. That's just live how it is. So, and so we plan what we want to measure and how we're going to measure it. I think it's really important that for me, what the impact report isn't actually just an add-on thing that managers do sat in the office. I think it needs to come from the very soul of the organisation, and hence that's why it's really important to encourage the ownership of the whole process. So through taking the team through the values exercise, the journey of change, they've got ownership on the what we're doing and why we're doing it. And this, I think, the impact report and encouraging people to be a part of it adds strength to that as well. So we're continually talking to the team members and that throughout the year about, you know, which case studies they want to include, and it's very much part of kind of our provision. We've done workshops on how to write a good case study, that kind of thing. So the case studies and the stories all come from the team. I don't go out and collect them, they hand them in. So we start the process of collecting the data. I'm really lucky because I'm quite organised, but I'm maybe not the most organised person in the world. And Kim, our receptionist and office administrator and general organiser, is brilliant at this. So she collects a lot of the data and the stories for me as we're going through. She's also the one that designs it on Canva. And then I start to write and to pull in kind of different bits that other people are handing in to inform the impact report, and start to collate it into a Word document for her to start to use. And so that happens, I don't know, July time, probably June, July time, we start to pull that together for the impact report to be published in September. Then Kim will start designing the page templates on Canva. She's already started for next year, so she's way ahead of the game. So she'll start designing that, and we'll look at what we want to include and what we don't, and how we might want to include it. And then Kim and I meet a lot as we transfer the content into Canva, and identify gaps and cut out bits which are maybe kind of excessive, and it's just L's typed too much and it really needs to be condensed. Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of proofreading, so much proofreading. I think 3 or 4 of us proofread it this year, and I still found a mistake the other day. Nobody likes a typo. I would definitely say if you want to produce something like this, you need to get a good friend with a pen to go through and have a look at it, because I think that's just about the overall professionalism of the product that you're producing, really. And then we publish through a link on our website as the final version. So despite the fact that we can condense it into a smaller PDF, it's too big to send out as an attachment. So there was a bit of the first year we weren't entirely sure how we were actually going to get it out there, because it was all trial and error at that point. But now we're a little bit more kind of proficient with these things, so we upload it as a link onto the website, and then we can just share the link. So that is the how we do it. So what we include in it, throughout the year, we're collecting quotes from young people. When we get feedback from young people, when they say things during the days that they have with us, we're collecting quotes from them. We have a case study template form. So when a young person maybe is having a particularly big journey at BF, they've made, you know, really good change, and they're really able to kind of talk about their story, and we've had good input from professionals that are working with them, then we might choose to use them as a case study, and then the instructor will work with them and with their parents and their carers and their referrers to kind of gather that information. And I'll show you an example of one of those in a minute. We have feedback surveys which we do through SurveyMonkey, which I might change away from SurveyMonkey because it's a bit clunky. And so that gives us a range of statistics that we can gather in terms of kind of satisfaction in the services and ways that we can improve. So that can inform some statistics that go into it. We get quotes from parents and carers. We often get emails talking about the difference we've made to a young person. And so we'll include, now the drumming started, it's fun, isn't it? I don't know if you can hear that, sorry about that, it's all go. Obviously, in terms of the general data, it's about numbers of young people accessing each programme, the age, their gender. I think one of the ways that I found it really useful is in terms of a public space to acknowledge funders. It's not always easy to say thank you to funders through social media all of the time. So it's a really good, this report gets sent to many of our funders anyway. So it's a really good kind of public recognition of the support that they've provided us. New from this year, I was having a chat with one of our team members, and he started talking about how he first started as volunteer at BF, and it was just this most amazing story. So I'd really like, I think next year we'd kind of quite like to get more stories from volunteers in terms of the wider impact of the work. So the work that we do is just not, it doesn't just impact on the young people that we're working with, but with others in the community. And that's really exciting. The first year I went on a bit of a mission to kind of clarify stuff about our approach, our mission statement and our ethereal journey of change. And that took up a lot of the document because it was like stating a claim, and I think it was a really, really good place to start. The feedback that I received from that is that actually from an average person in the street, they had no idea of some of the language that I was using or what actually BF Adventure did. What did we do? Like, it's fine in theory, but what does that actually mean? So this year I've tried to clarify, I guess, how we do what we say that we do with a practical example. So this year I've included Debbie's journey within that, which kind of would talk through anybody that was interested but didn't quite get it into what it is that we do. So that's general kind of inclusion stuff, lots of stories, lots of stats, lots of quotes, all kind of bound up in one report, which is designed a little bit more like a magazine, I guess, for people to dip into. We're not expecting people to read it cover to cover, although I expect my mother to read it cover to cover, but I don't expect anybody else to, maybe the CEO. But you know, it's kind of designed that you can read a page and kind of get a bit of a picture and go, oh, I like that. But you know, we've all got lots and lots and lots of stuff to read. So that's it, that's the purpose. So this is an example of one of our case studies from this year, and as you can see, what we try to do is pull out what the instructor said about the young person, not the young person's real name, what the youth worker that referred the young person says, what their parents said, and what the young person themselves said. So it's loosely based on a piece of evaluative work that Marjons did, funded through Erasmus. But we've kind of twisted it a little bit because we get to do that, don't you? Somebody else can do the theory or whatever, and then we'll make it work for us. But it's loosely round about that, and it's about capturing kind of quotes and comments and feedback. So that's our case studies. And these, I realised together on the screen, squashed up, these look quite intense, but because usually it's a scrolling thing, so that looks like an enormous bit of information. It's not that bad when you scroll down. This is 2 pages side by side. But as you can see, Canva allows you to design different things. And I like this one because for the numbers of young people, Kim, for every project that we deliver, Kim's put kind of one young person represents one young person in terms of pictorially in that infographic thing. And for some, it's just sort of 15, 20 young people, but you can see here with our Learn Differently, which is our major program that we run, that's, you know, close on 500 young people that we're working with, and it's got quite a strong visual image for that, which Canva is brilliant for. Oh, surprises. What's next? Who we share it with. So in lots of different places through the website, is we'll put links up. It also, with it being on the website as a hosting platform, it gives us kind of extra website traffic as well, if you're talking from a marketing point of view. We'll put links on all of our social media channels. And I think that one of the plans is to take pages from it and use that as actual content for social media as well, to keep linking people back to it so that they can see a bit of it and maybe look at the rest of it. It's pinned to the top of my own Twitter feed, which I think is really good. My personal Twitter isn't a work one, so it kind of just gives that backdrop. We will send to funders as part of our application. For some where, you know, you're sending in a letter of introduction or something like that, it's really handy to send in as part of that, and also as part of an end of grant report in terms of the wider repercussions of the funding that they've given us over the organisation over the year. I think for me, it's about sharing with the staff team to ensure that they're fully engaged. We've got quite a big team down here now. And I think it's great in terms of their sense of pride for working for an organisation that's really trying to talk about how they're making a difference. And for those that have put content together for it, I think it's always really exciting to see your work in print, you know, and it's not been tweaked that much. So there's that sense of kind of ownership over the whole thing. Obviously the trustees, they love it. Oh yeah, and I've said that other bit. So we use segments from it throughout the year to tell young people's stories on our social media. And that I can stop sharing, which is always better. That is a whistle-stop tour of our social impact. But if we've got time, I'm really happy to take questions.
Oh, thanks so much. That's absolutely fantastic. And a big thank you for sharing that. And it's great learning all the digital tips and techniques and technologies that Kate's presenting to us, but sometimes we leave these webinars and these workshops with all these tools, but actually putting that into practice and making that a thing and working with that is always the hard thing. So I really wanted to get a case study of how does this actually play out? Why do we work with this? What's the point of it? And so Elle, you've just really shown us a really great story of what you do there at BF and how valuable that is as a document for all the reasons that you've mentioned. So a big thank you. We've probably got about 4 minutes and maybe a question or two, if anybody's got one. If not, we can, Elaine, do you want to jump in?
Thank you, Elle, thank you so much. Just to echo what James has said, it was so insightful for the information Kate's given us, and then to actual real life practical ways of putting it in place is really helpful. Thank you. You mentioned about you had like a case study form, and something I'm asking our volunteers and staff is, oh, note that down, and then in 11 months time I'm going to forget to collect that. So I really love that practical task. I just wondered if you could give an overview of what that case study form looks like, and is it standardized across all your activities, or is it kind of tweaked to maybe a certain age group or a need of that young person?
So it basically just sets out some boxes for the instructors to fill in, which then turns into that case study thing. So it will say something like, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it says, you know, speak to the youth worker. What do they say? Speak to the parents. It's really, really, really simplistic, but it just enables them to capture the information that we want. So it's not rocket science. None of this really is rocket science, and it's all completely, I mean, it's informed by kind of, you know, professional discussions and other webinars and things that I've been on, and you know, it's not plucked out of the air, but it really is kind of trial and, you know, experience basically. So yeah, it's just, but we found that if we didn't give a form, then instructors weren't sure what it was that they were supposed to be writing. So everybody, most people love a form to fill in, right? It's like, here's the question, what's the answer? Brilliant.
Thanks, Elle. Thanks, Elaine. And we can merge these with some of the technologies that Kate's talking around. So using the forms that we've discussed, and that starts to collect that and collate that. The last question before we go another breakout to share some more stuff with each other, Eric's put a question of how much time does this take? And I just want to reference before Elle gives the answer for how much time this takes in BF. From my perspective, it's all proportionality, right? So you can have a huge organization and they're required to kind of report a lot more because they've got the resources, but you can have a one-man band, and that one-man band can only do so much, right? So it's all proportionality, I think, is a really important thing. But is there anything more specific that you want to ask Elle, Eric, directly?
Yeah, sorry. So obviously we're all incredibly busy, and in any organisation, what I tend to find is that everyone is maxed out doing their own roles, and then this is quite a piece of work on top. And while I really like it, I just wonder, how do you manage that so that you have everything coming in at the right times? How do you stay on top of it? How do you manage the resource to be able to create something as effective as that?
So it's a bit of a headache, I'm not going to lie. We now set aside a week we work in like half-termly basis. That's how our year goes by. We follow the academic year. We set aside a week every term for like a reflection week, so that the emphasis is on collecting some of these case studies, getting some quotes. There's a big push throughout the week to get some of the information. That started off as every half term, but that was a step too far for my team. That's too often. Everyone's too busy. So we've dropped that down to 1 week every term. And that enables us to keep on top of things. And I think for me though, the main thing is it's additional work, but is it additional work? Because if you're proud of the work that you're doing and you are making a difference, why on earth wouldn't you put that little bit of extra or prioritize talking about the stuff that you're doing? And I realise that I'm really lucky because I've got a team here. I'm not a one-man band. I've got a team behind me. The first year it was pretty much me on my own, but as I've started to kind of pull the whole organisation into it more, I've got more support with it. There's more content. It means that I do less, but the fact that it actually is embodied within the work that we do, and it's getting there in terms of I guess that ethos. I know there's a massive debate, isn't there, in terms of, you know, measuring impact. Some people are really not into it. For me, it's like, well, if we're doing brilliant things, then why would we not tell people and involve young people that are learning brilliant things with us in that process of learning? And I just think it's kind of essential. So yes, it takes some time, but for us, we need to be doing it. So it shouldn't replace anything else.
Thanks, Al. Thanks, Eric. And so let's move this into breakout rooms where we can all share some more experiences. I'm just going to put the topic area of the sharing best practice breakout room into the chat there, and then we can take this into another 15-minute breakout room to all share experiences. And following that breakout room, we've got one more session really, which is Kate's going to take us through of how to create an infographic using Sway and Canva. So a bit of a demo of actually how to do it, because again, what I'm conscious of is highlighting all this stuff, but how does this transition into actually doing it? And so hopefully that will be a session. So I'm just going to set up the breakout rooms now. They will be very similar to they were before. So give me 2 seconds.
Whilst you're just doing that, James,
Welcome back, everyone. I think that's one group. Just waiting for Kate's group. Thank you, Karen and Kate, for facilitating those breakout rooms. Hopefully that gave everyone an opportunity to feedback some questions, queries, comments, whatever you have around the workshop, but don't feel like that was the only time you can do that. After this, I'll follow up with an email with all the resources that we've given you, and do reply in there with any requests that you might have as an enterprise of how Smartline can help you. We're always looking to see Smartline's element around enterprise support is always enterprise led. What we want to know is how can we support you? This was all crafted out of a survey of asking kind of social enterprise, how can we help you? So do feed in if you feel like you've got gaps of knowledge or anything that Smartline can fulfill. Do let us know, and we'll see how we can do that. So thank you, Kate, and thank you, Karen, for doing that again. Okay, so transitioning into the last session now, which is how to create an infographic. And so back over to Kate to facilitate.
Lovely, thanks. So I hope this won't take too long. So hopefully it won't be boring to watch. But what I want to do is just give you a quick sort of demo of how to use Sway, the first product that I was talking about, and then also how to use Canva to publish quickly, and so that it doesn't become a real laborious task, that kind of publishing piece for you. So again, if I can share my screen, this is going to be, I'm just now on my browser. So for those of you that have 365 as a product, we literally go into Office. We look at our dots down the side, if we can here, and we can see down here we would have a little product called Sway, which if we can see here, and then we click on Sway, and then we go into our Sway product here. Now, what's great with Sway, as I say, is that we can also push straight out from Word into Sway. So I'll show you that. Well, no, I won't be able to show you that today, but you can have a play with that yourselves. But in here, we've got some templates. So we can choose a template we might like to use. Lots of different ones there that we can pick up on. I'm going to use this one here today called Vision Document, but you can choose whichever one you want. You can see that this one is set out in a horizontal style. This is the template that you can see. I can move things along. I've got some little cards here that I can add content to. Obviously, all the images I can change, all the text I can change. You can see here there's a little sort of Power BI, a little graph here that we can use, and so on. So that's the template that we've got there. And then all I need to then do, if I can, is, it's not going to let me, sorry, just bear with me a second. Let's pick this here, up here. What I can then do is I can just add in my details. So Social Impact Report 2020, let's say I've got a little text card so that I can add in some text in here. So I can either copy and paste text straight in, or I can just type. And then if you remember, I had a few little cards, those little stacks, so that in these cards I could add things like, did you know? For example, we worked with 789 young people. Forgive my typos here. For example, if whatever, we can add in content into those in that way. We can change our images in there. I can add in images. So if I want to add in an image, I just click plus add image, and then I can type up here. So I could put in, say, rock climbing as an example, just thinking about Elle's stuff. And then I can just click and drag that image over to there, and then I can add some content in here. Rock climbing, or, so you can see how quickly and easily we can just drag things in. We can also add in media. So if we've got a YouTube clip, we can click on media. We can add in a little video in there. If we've got something to embed, like a Power BI embedding piece, we can click embed and we can just copy the embed code in there and we just build it. And then when we click play, you'll see now I've got my text in there. You can see where I've just sort of added a little bit of text there. You can see that's my did you know? And if I've got several of those, I would sort of click through those. You can see I've added a little video here that I can click and play, and that video will play straight away in there. I've added in a Power BI, and you can see that I can click and interrogate that information easily, and so on. So it's so easy, it's almost ridiculous, really. And the great thing is, once we've built it like this, we just share it. So we've got the option to share it, anyone with this link. So anyone can view it, or just people in the organization, or just specific people. So we can keep it quite tight, or we can build it out in that way. And then all we do is click on that link, we copy that, and we can paste it anywhere. We can get a little visual link as well, so that we could use that if we want to make it look more attractive. And then anyone who opens that literally just opens it on their browser. That's it. So it's such a simple product to use. We can change the design of it ourselves as well. So when we feel a bit more confident with it, we can change it from a horizontal scroll to a vertical scroll. We can change the colors. I'll make it look really awful now, probably. I've just added, made it purple, added some backgrounds to it. So we can just build it and play like that. So that is the Sway product that's really useful to use. And as I say, when you start to look at it in this way, it's just really easy and quick. Anyone got any questions on Sway? Or any thoughts about how they could use Sway?
Just
James.
to add, Sway also has accessibility tools.
I'll show you that. Yes, good point.
So for those that are reaching out to be completely inclusive to all, it's got accessibility view essentially, which it's going to show you now. So it allows
screen readers.
Yeah,
absolutely. And also down here, we can you can print it off, or you can save it as a PDF as well. So so that's a really simple way of getting something into that, into everyone's space, really, from that perspective.
We've got a question: can Sway be used on a Mac? I believe there will be a...
Yeah, you can develop through just by opening your browser and just using it in exactly the same way. So you just open browser, go into Office 365, use Sway, save it, and anyone can see it. They work particularly well on mobiles as well. So if someone's viewing this in a mobile format, it's really useful.
But like Joe said, it's not free. It's part of the 365 license.
Part of the 365 package. Yeah, absolutely.
So you would need to have a Microsoft Office 365 license in order to access that as a software tool. And that neatly goes into our next product, I guess, which is free.
Absolutely. So no, just to answer the question from Joe, no one else who sees it needs to have a license. So anyone who, once it's published, it's just a published document. So so it's only you who needs the license for it. Okay. So the other one, as I say, that I wanted just to quickly show you was Canva. And I'll just move my little bits and pieces around here so I can see. So Canva, we can all use for free. We can log into it using either a Google account or just creating a normal account. So that's all we need to do to get in to use Canva. And before I start showing you how to use an infographic, the thing to realize with Canva is we can do lots and lots of other stuff with it as well. So we can create posters, we can do social media posts, we can create presentations, all sorts of stuff. We can design our flyers in there. So we can do print as well as the stuff that we want in the digital world. But the one I wanted to show you today was the infographic one. So we click on infographic. And when it loads up, you can see these are all the infographics that are pre-designed for us in here. So we can see that some of them are like timelines. So you might want to create a social impact piece that actually talks about the history of the organization. Or you might want to do one, the one I really liked, Elle, when you were talking about the young person's journey, you might want to do that as a timeline. You might want to do one that shows the process. So how you do stuff might be a really interesting approach. So there's some process ones, some which are just about information, some which are showcasing data. This one I quite like, the idea of comparing. So this versus this. So you could think about someone you're working with against someone you're not working with in a particular environment. It's quite a nice way to showcase the impact of the work that you do. So have a little play with these, but basically we can click on one of them, any that we like. Just trying to, should have chosen one beforehand, but we can click on this one. You can see that there's 2 pages here. And if I want to use both of them, I can click apply both pages. And then what I've got here now are 2 pages, page 1, page 2. The page 2 in this instance, I've got is all little extra resources and graphics I could use specifically for this one. And then if I just go a little bit larger on this so that you can see it, you can see that everything I'm rolling over, all I need to do is click on it and then I can change that text. So I double click on it and I could say young people. And on this graphic here, I could change those young people to babies if I wanted to, or to hands, or to corn on the cobs, whatever it is I want to change it to, but I can change those graphics in that way. I can add some numbers into there. I can click on this graphic. I can choose what percentage I wanted within there, and that will automatically work in that way. I can put, whatever content into there. So that becomes easy. And if I haven't got all of this data, for example, instead I might choose to add a image into here. So I might just add a young person. Sorry, I'm going on a young person's theme here. But I might want to just add, drag and drop that particular image into there. I can then resize it. I might want to take this one, move it up to here. And actually, if you see, those colors don't match the colors I want, so I can click on that instead and actually change it to the color background that suits the one I want, or the color system that I'm building. And so you can see that I can quite easily build something that looks like I know what I'm doing. So it's so simple. What we can do at this point is, if I was then working on this, say with Karen, I would then share it with Karen. So I can then put her email address into there. I can share the link so that she can edit this as well. So we can work on it together and we can build it together over time. And then when we're ready, all we do is click on the download, and the options we've got is we can print it we can download it as a PDF, or we can download it as a JPEG, or as a PNG, or as a GIF. So depending on which format you want, you can just put it into that way. Once you've got it as a PDF, you can upload it to your website. You can upload it to Issuu, the product that I told our little breakout group about, but not about it, not to anyone else. Issuu is a little PDF flip book that allows us to flick through a PDF in a much nicer way. It looks a bit like this. So we can upload it to there, or we can just keep it and send it out via an attachment. So that's Canva. They all feel like they could give Canva a little go. Yeah, yeah. It really isn't rocket science. There's a lovely, the key thing is there's a little back arrow. So if you do anything wrong, click the back arrow and it'll undo what you've done. And that's one of the critical things, I think, to have a little play with here. Helen's saying she uses it every day. It's brilliant. Yeah, I'd agree.
Again, a big thank you, Kate. I think sometimes we reference these things, and because we don't see them in the workshop or the webinar, we just don't, or when we do get to land on it, we just don't know where to start in there. And so just a little demo there, just giving a taster of actually just the ways in which it works, which is drag and drop and copy and paste. We could say these things, but how that actually plays out, just showing that there, I think hopefully will inspire people to give it a go, and it's not as scary as it feels. I think a key thing to reference is, kind of Eric brought it up earlier, is dedicating some time to do this is probably the hardest thing. We're always busy in what we're doing, right? Is delivering the programs that we're delivering and the normal work. And so this always seems like added work, but actually it shouldn't be added work. It should be part of our work, but because it's this extra thing, we need to really dedicate some time to it. And so I would encourage everyone to try and maybe just give 20% of their week into doing something like this, because it is worth it. When you do manage to get some results of showcasing your impact, that will bear its fruits. You can share that with more people, ultimately commissioners, funders, or and others, to showcase the work that you're doing. Sorry, I've waffled there a little bit, but does anyone have any questions, queries, just right on the back of those demos for Kate? And then we will transition into just the last 15 minutes. So that's just a Q&A session. If anyone's got any questions or queries, or if you feel like you've had enough for today, you're more than happy to log off. But big thank you. So over to everyone else. If you've got any questions or queries, just feel free to put up your hand like Noor, and you can go first, Noor.
Thank you. So on my laptop, I have Word, Excel, and PowerPoint, because I was just looking at the Microsoft 365, and I'm not sure, do I need to sign up for the product so I can access all the other apps that you're talking? I know that you mentioned a few were free, but for everything else, if I already have Word and Excel and PowerPoint, does that mean I've already bought these products? I'm not sure.
If you go into Word or Excel and click on File, top left, and then along there's a little button that says Account. And if you click on Account, it will tell you whether you're already in 365 or not. So that might be the easiest way to see. If you are in 365, you can then just go on to office.com, and then you'll see everything that you can either download or use in the browser environment. So that's the easiest way to tell.
The other way you could do that, Noor, is just by going on to Office 365, trying to log on using your credentials that you would normally have. And if it recognizes those as they're registered with a license of 365, it will naturally just give you those products. If you don't have a license, because sometimes we buy these laptops and these devices and they're installed with these products which are downloaded, not cloud-based products. So it's not the 365 license, but it's an old version of Word or something like that. You don't have the 365 license essentially.
Yeah, thank you. Just wanted to last question. So then, if I don't have an account, let's say with them, is there one of the different options that you would recommend so that we can have access to all these apps you've spoken about? Because you know, there is the Business Basic, Standard, Premium, but the apps that you've mentioned, none of them appear under, from what I can see, under those.
Yeah, it might be that you are you a charity, a registered charity?
We're a CIC.
CIC. So you wouldn't get the non-profit discount rate. So let me just, I'll have a look at the business rates. I'll have a look at that whilst if anyone else has got any questions, I'll come back to you on that one, Nor.
Just to, I mean, I missed the start of that because I had a phone call, but yeah, no, I've had quite a few problems with setting up the Microsoft 365, and a year later we're still having problems with it. It's been a real, the struggle is real, so you're not on your own on that one. I could verily chuck it out the window quite a lot. But you know, as I said at the start of this, I've been thinking about, you know, jumping onto Google. Simply, it sounds like what you're saying. It's kind of very good for small, you know, SMEs and stuff. And as you get larger, then the Microsoft thing works. But I'll give it another go. I changed my I paid annually last year, and I changed it to monthly. So that shows you how desperate I was, hoping to not have to use it again. But hopefully I can kind of sort it out for once and for all.
Okay, well, Ruth, I'm sorry to hear that, but and I would say that's an unusual piece, and most people who I know who've transitioned really love it. So it sounds like there's something that I'm happy to stay after the call and work through that with you if it's useful, but I don't know if I can or not. But sometimes those things with accounts are the tricky bits. But I think the licensing piece that might be useful is it's the business standard that gives you, I think, most of the pieces you need. They've just changed the subscriptions again, but I will keep having a look at that for you, Nor.
Just to add, Kate's not endorsed to support Microsoft.
No,
products.
I'm not. No, it's not. No, definitely.
So this isn't
a sales pitch
or a sponsored workshop. This is simply through experience and knowledge of just using systems and software. So it's an impartial view. Absolutely, yeah. Any other questions or queries? We've got about 10 minutes left, so feel free to stay on the call as you all are, just to listen to any conversations going on, because it's all useful. So any other questions or queries that people may have? No,
I'm just ready for when the revolution comes and we can get rid of subscription software. All right, so when you're all ready, you know, let's change the world.
Here, Ruth.
Double high five to that. I've got a dash, but I just want to say thank you so much. I really appreciate it was brilliant, really great. I guess is what's next? Is there another follow-up from this, or is there another focus, or how do we find out more about anything coming up? But yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Elaine. It's lovely
Thanks, Elaine.
feedback. And so what's next? We put a survey out actually for this workshop to ask people what would they like to learn more about or know about. And there were 4 elements in there. And the 2 elements that we've covered today, which is on digital tools and infographics and how to create an infographic or leaflet and things using a digital means, was the highest voted. But the other 2 options were also voted quite highly, but not as highly. But so we might do some work on that, and that's around digital advertising using social channels and things like that. And so that might be something that we would start to draw on, and we would pull in some experts like Kate's been pulled in for this one to give some insights of, okay, there's loads of social, where do you start? What are some, a bit like Kate does it very well, I must admit, in terms of highlighting some really short, sharp, really key tools and techniques and tips. And so hopefully we'll be able to find something similar for some social channels, because that is a whole nother world. And there is different models of using that. So you could jump into bed with a digital marketing agency where you could pay an awful lot of money for somebody to do that for you, but not all of us have that luxury of being able to have that spend. So how do you do it yourself, and where might you start? How might you get the best bang for your buck in terms of the time that you spend in doing that, essentially? So that could be an option. But if there's any other avenues, like I said, do let me know, and we'll see if we can pull something together to support, because you won't be the only one asking that question. It will be a common gap or thought that you have that you might push forward.
Thanks, James. I was just going to ask as well, in between like workshops and stuff, if we have like our own sort of queries, like any struggles, whatever that we've got with our organisation, can we like email and just, you know, see if you guys might have the answers or a bit of help?
Of course. And so I'm representing University of Exeter and Smartline here today, which is a project with partnership, like I said at the start. And so obviously we've got many colleagues that may be able to answer your question and help you in that instance. And of course, Chantal, you can do that. I won't speak on behalf of Kate because we've brought Kate in. Kate's part of an organisation called Cosmic, but I'll let you answer that one from Cosmic's perspective, Kate.
Yeah. I'm always here, so how just reach out. I've just put my email address in the chat, so if you need any support, just email me and I'll do our best to help. So absolutely, I'd love to.
My last question, James, sorry, it's just that I found the apps really interesting as you were going through them, Kate, but I didn't have enough time, I think, to write like everything down, like what each one can do. Will we have access to the recording later to just go over it again? Okay, thank you.
So following this, yeah, you'll have a follow-up email, which will have a resource guide of all the things mentioned. We'll have the presentations, and it will have a link to the recording where you can jump into the link and just follow this as and where you wish. I thought somebody might ask for the Hobbit music back, but maybe not.
God, no.
You're not alone in not liking it, Ruth. The last time I asked about it, somebody wanted drum and bass instead. So I think that would have a slightly different take.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you very much.
Thanks, everyone.
Lovely to see you.
Have a lovely day. Thank you, Kate.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everyone.
Karen.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Thanks. James, someone's just literally knocking on my door. Can I just quickly answer it and I'll be back 2 seconds. Cheers.
That went